There are things in this world we cannot explain, something hidden just beyond our view. Journey with us as we attempt to pierce the veil between our world and theirs. Join us as we pass through the doorway to the dead.
Join us at WLFE-DB.com for upcoming shows and so much more.
All right, welcome in, everyone. It is Thursday, July 22nd, 8 p.m. I am Dave. There is Jim. We are one half of Keystone State Paranormal Society, and this is Doorway to the Dead, the 2-hour interactive live show on the WLFE-DB network. And tonight's going to be a good one. We got a paranormal roundtable going on, and Jim, I'll let you tell everybody who's here with us.
Yes, well, first off, I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight, and I want to particularly thank our guest hosts. Going back, we first met Sycso several years ago and connected with her at Gettysburg Bash, or I guess it's been about 3 years now. And through that, through knowing Sycso, she has introduced us to a number of great individuals that she's worked with and does shows with regularly. And so she really did the yeoman's work setting this up, getting in touch with Bryan. So our guests tonight, I'll introduce them first, are Sycso Murdoch, Bryan Bowden, and Steve Stockton. Sycso hails from the state of New Jersey. We won't hold that against her. But no, Sycso's from New Jersey, and Bryan is from the great state of New York, trying to get him out of that great state. And Steve is on the West Coast in Oregon. We have amongst the three of them, they're all authors. They've done a number of great works. They all touch in all the various realms, but they have their specialties. And so there's going to be some interaction between the three of them where they've all worked on similar cases, and then some of them specialize more in the cryptozoology or the Bigfoot or whatever. We've got to know the three of them. We've had them on singularly before, and just feel so much in common with them and their interest and their vast array of knowledge in their particular field. And so it's with a lot of respect that we have these three individuals with us tonight, and it's so great seeing all of you. With this new format, we do at least get to see our friends and stuff. So, Sycso, I'll let you kick things off if you want to talk about the concepts where we thought about this round table. And for the audience, please, any questions you have, key them in, and we'll certainly get them out there and we'll discuss among our group. Got a number of topics we're going to bring up, but if someone has a particular interest, please let us know in your comments, and we will try to touch base with that. So, Sycso, you want to give a little insight into how this came big?
Absolutely. Dave kind of looked at me and said, Sycso, make this happen. And I said, okay, brother, let's do it. That's the way it works, you know. And I got to say, aren't I a lucky girl? Look at all these fine men I get to be on with tonight. So right here, what you have is a collection of some of the truest, dearest hearts ever put in the paranormal. And the reason that they get such great results and get people to tell their stories and get great communications is because of that. There's a lot of great energy here tonight, and I'm proud to be here. Thanks for asking me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Bryan, would you go next and just give a brief summary? You're into everything. As a matter of fact, you're involved with a work with UFOs right now too. Give us some insight on that. I'm not.
Yeah, I can't hear him. Hold on. Unmute. His mic's not muted. Okay, he's got, for some reason, Bryan has 2 feeds in here. Let me try and kick the
I
other
see
one.
that. Yeah, try cutting the one feed.
And if it kicks you, Bryan, just come on back in. Oh, okay.
Okay, the one's gone. Let's see
Yep.
if that clears it up. Well, I'll tell you what, Steve, let's swing over. Bryan, we're not picking you up on the
Audio.
mic right now. So, Steve, you want to try your mic? Make sure we got you in.
Yeah, I think mine's working okay.
All right.
Yep.
So give us. So, Steve, for any of the audience who may not have missed our previous show with you, would you give them a little insight into who Steve Stockton is and your specialty, sir?
I'm a veteran outdoorsman, author, raconteur, YouTube host, and a little bit of everything. Had an interest in the paranormal for close to 50 years now. So, been doing this a long time, and something Sycso and I both agree on is the more we delve into it, the fewer answers we find, but we find more questions. And that's the thrill of it for me, is finding more questions to ponder.
Testing 1, 2.
Yeah, good. I think we got Bryan. Bryan,
Ooh,
you in?
thank God.
Yay, good. We
There he
got
is.
everybody.
Yeah,
Steve,
sorry,
go.
I have to do a weird setup, so sometimes it gets fickle.
Well, while we have Steve there 1 second, I do want to make a mention in our previous conversations. I really applaud Steve for being as regimented as he is. The reason he's been able to put out so many books and that is, I believe you told me previously, you spend a minimum of 4 hours a day between actually researching and putting some of those thoughts to print. Is that still true?
Yeah, absolutely. That's my basic. That's my work day. Is I write 4 hours, and I read 4 hours, and then in between times there, I narrate for my YouTube channel or do whatever I need to do. Lifelong insomniac. I only sleep about 2 hours a night, so I use it to my advantage.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing, and I really do applaud that discipline, and I really do have respect for that as well. That's that people don't realize how much effort it puts into putting out a really good work of literature, information, a collection. You can just throw some junk together, but I've read materials from all, and just excellent here. So,
Yeah, well,
Bryan, we'll swing you in now. You want to give us a little background on you, and I know your project you're working on now.
Sure. So I started with UFOs a long time ago, and I've been researching almost everything, but focused on UFOs and aliens initially as a younger person. Then when I was able to get out of, have my own car, I was able to get into the field a lot more. I've been researching a variety of I guess, hauntings or ghost-related phenomena, to metaphysical, to UFOs, Bigfoot, you name it. I'm not really thrilled about the dog man. I'm not happy those things exist, but we do research on that as well. And it's there seems to be something that's binding them kind of together, and that's a part of the mission there. Trying to figure this out. But I have a couple of books that I'm writing about 2 or 3 at the same time, because I have something with Ron Murphy that I'm doing, and it's just a lot more. I wish I had the discipline of Steve, but I've been doing a lot more voice to text type of getting it down, so I have the basis of what I was discussing, and hopefully I'll have I have a Bigfoot book that I'd like to come out, and a couple others at that end. But it's anytime I get in the field, that's where I want to be.
And you and your sidekick Alfred are on a UFO project right now, correct?
Right. So we started together as Bronxville Paranormal Society, and it's really interesting how this community, if you do ghosts, you can't do cryptids or you can't do UFOs. You gotta under the same banner. So we broke off, and I helped found and direct the New York State UFO project. We also have a New York State Sasquatch organization for the Bigfoot Sasquatch, and we do stuff for New York. The North American Dogman Project. We are the co-directors of New York State chapter. We're doing it anyhow, but some people get really picky and give you a whole hard time, like, what are those ghost guys talking about Bigfoot? Well, guess what? There may be something linked to it. So we take it all into play and see where the crossovers are, that type of stuff. So,
and the discipline in a lot of this, to research, to basically do it in a manner that supports any capture of evidence and all that's not exclusive to just to ghosts or whatever. It's that kind of discipline and involvement gives us all scale whenever the project. I know another wonderful lady we've got to meet, and matter of fact, we had her as a guest here at the Hoover House with Sheet Noir, and she's and her specialty, I guess, is the lake monster kind of cryptids and stuff. But she's publishing and editing about 5 different magazines right now.
Wow.
And that's one thing for the audience. We'll probably try to get it around. There are some incredible paranormal magazines now. Some of them are published in print. There's a number of them that are actually online, and they're doing some exceptional work. I mean, I don't know that level of production and what's out there for the public has ever been any better.
I don't know if Sycso, Steve, and even both you and Dave have had the experience that if you're for some reason people have a problem if you research one versus the other and you're wearing whatever you're wearing, the hat you're wearing. We definitely try to break it into different areas, but there is a lot of crossover in this field, a super amount of crossover in this field. And if you don't understand that concept, and you're still doing your research, you're doing yourself a disservice because you're negating very important data that down the line may smack you in the face, and you would like, oh, I wish I knew about that a while ago. Well,
that's interesting you mentioned that, because while we're basically centered on spirits, and then of course even there we've sort of modified our sense that we're sort of always working for the higher frequencies. The negative stuff's out there, but we're not looking for it.
Right.
But interestingly enough, in our various table tipping sessions now, quite often we're moved to ask spirit about aliens and whether or not they're present here on Earth. And I got to tell you, whenever we ask that question, it's a real strong reaction. They tell us they're here, they're on Earth with us as we speak, and we get that same response, and it's a real strong response.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
Yeah,
it's all connected. It really is. I promise.
Here's the problem we're getting right now, and the problem is we have individuals who, and I'm not picking on anybody. I'm just explaining it to you. The new trend is aliens and Bigfoot are either Nephilim or demonic, and they're fallen angels, and that's where people are going with it. It's almost as if they don't like what they're hearing and they want to put it into their context. And we're getting a lot of this from the born again genre. And I'm not discrediting anybody's religion. I think religion is purpose. I believe in God myself and multiple different forms of things here. But from our experience, from my research, from our connections to other individuals who had multiple type of experience in abductions, this has nothing to do when you get to Bigfoot, ghosts, Sasquatch, aliens. It doesn't have to do with Nephilim or the Nephilim and fallen angels. It is its own uh, entities.
Existence. Yep.
Right. I mean, just look at the prayer for Michael, Holy Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle, be your protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him. We humbly pray, and do thou, O Prince of the heavenly hosts, thrust into hell Satan and all other evil spirits, looking to ruin the soul of man. Amen. They're not just talking about demons, that there are other spirits that were here long before God just said, hey, I'm creating man in my image, and we're putting them down there. Mm-hmm. So, and that's the point. But I don't, I'm not here to get into a war with anybody. I'm just saying my personal opinion. Aliens are aliens. They're different species that have been here. They're internal aliens. They're interdimensional. They're extraterrestrial. Same thing with a lot of these cryptids.
I don't want to jump on anybody, but I got to tell you that it's all connected. And, and who am I? Like Steve and I say, Bryan and I've said on this show, I've been doing this for, I don't know, I've been saying 45 years for about 10 years. So it's probably a long time. And like I said, we have more questions now than when we started. But what I have found, and what I really believe in my heart, is so many things are connected. And I think the same thing comes with, if you're talking about a group, say cryptids, and then you're talking about a group, say ghost spirits, if you're talking about a group of, whatever aliens, okay? We're talking about that old file cabinet again, where everybody's trying to put everything in a file folder and then putting that in a drawer marked this. You have to get around the idea that there's more than ghosts are going to do more than one thing. There is an individual as the person who passed and what stage of their journey they're on. Same with aliens. You're going to have interplanetary, you're going to have extra dimensional, you're going to have all of that. There's more than one type of alien. There's more than one type of cryptid. I believe there's more than one type of Bigfoot, because gosh, we look different, around the world where we are. We've adapted to our our area. And then you got to talk about, well, what area is he adapting to, being Bigfoot or Sasquatch or whatever. But I think it's all connected. It does have to do with energy. And the more we look into this, I believe energy is the big thing. Frequency, energy, vibration. Bam.
Yep. I guess one of our viewers wanted to know if we'd ever seen a UFO or alien, or let's throw this out too, a Bigfoot or a dog man. So to get a take, I have seen a UFO. My experience, I think I was about 15 or 16 in high school, and I was babysitting, and I had one above my house in the backyard. So I have seen a UFO. I can't say I've seen an alien, and then I've seen a number of apparitions and various shadow peoples and all that. I know, Bryan, what's your background?
So I've seen several unidentified craft UFOs. I've actually called in craft in a close encounter of the fifth kind ceremonies. I'm doing it again this year at Pine Bush. One more time. Hopefully the magic will happen again. Cross my fingers here. But 100 people saw the craft the last time. I've seen aliens technically when I've remote viewed. And yes, I've seen them that way. There are a variety. There's well over a couple of hundred different species of aliens. I have seen Bigfoot. I have seen a dogman. I've seen full body apparitions. I've had past relatives come back and talk to me, and a lot of times what I do and how I do it, I can't explain it, but a lot of it takes place the moment I can kind of sleep. I'm with you, Steve. I get very little sleep, not by choice. But when I do, they're not, I call them dreams, but they're really experiences, because the difference between a dream and an experience is dreams, you kind of remember things. Oh, I think there was a dog, or an experience. I can tell you everything that took place, when it took place.
Yeah.
So I'm actually having experiences. That's where a lot of stuff, if you do have certain gifts or abilities, they do work better when, you're at rest. So, but I've seen a lot of things.
And
Steve?
Jim, I'm wondering, Jim, if that's what that dream that I had, where
Could
I
have
had
been,
so
'cause
much
it was-
descriptive detail about it.
Yeah. Very much so.
If you remember that much detail, it wasn't.
Yeah, I
a
can
dream.
tell you what the kitchen sink was. I can tell
It
you
wasn't
the
a dream.
type of cabinets, the type of carpet.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was not a dream. And I'll
Steve?
tell you, from this event that we're all living through for almost 2 years, the dreams have becoming a lot more vivid. They're darker in context. They're a lot vivid. They're a lot stranger, and more people that weren't aware that they may have been closer to using third eye abilities, inner, whatever you want to call it. They're having them now. And I've been helping with several people try to deal, talking them off the ledge type of stuff, because they can't feel like what's going on. It's really weird. This truly is the age of Aquarius.
Yeah. Steve, what's your inventory?
Well, I have to agree with Bryan there. The veil is thinning. Things are getting stranger. A lot more people are having stranger experiences. Me personally, I've seen unexplained things in the sky. I've seen full body apparitions, shadow people. I've heard and smelled Bigfoot, but I've never actually seen one. And haven't seen a dog man either, but that's on my bucket list, those two.
We have the best bucket list.
Yeah, your bucket list is crazy, Steve. You don't want to see these things.
And Sycso, what's your take? What's your background with some of these experiences?
Well, UFO, yes. Mine was more of a light that actually was in the sky. Some of us who are older will remember when they used to have big sales at like a car show, and they had the big spotlights, and the spotlight would hit the cloud, and you'd see like this circle, like somebody with a big flashlight. Yeah.
Yep.
It was very similar to that. And then it was like following us, and it moved with us. And then it, at that point in time, you've got, 10, 11-year-old girls just scream. And then we start running. And when we got into the house, it had been a 4-hour difference in time. So I can't explain that. So full body apparitions, shadow people for sure. Golly, Bigfoot. I saw baby Bigfoot. I've seen all kind of cryptid, strange anomaly type creatures that are all, I can't explain, but they were there. Visitation dreams. Gosh, I know I'm forgetting stuff. Communication with spirit, which is one of the best I've ever had. I think we've all started our journeys and understood along the way, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? As we're able to understand, because that's the way I get it, from a Native American point of view. A lot of people on their journeys, you could show them a picture on mile 2 that they're just not going to see. Mile 50, they see it completely different. They can see it then. And that's kind of the way I look at, everybody's journey in life here. And then as it continues on, everybody sees what they're able to understand at the time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think all of us probably agree that the veil's thinning. Like I said, the age of Aquarius. There is there's becoming things that are, I'm going to say, to the point of commonplace now. That that we, even as recent as maybe 10 years ago, would have startled us. I know the kind of communication we're having over here now on pretty much a weekly basis. I mean, the spirit's been telling us they know when someone's coming to visit us at the Hoover House, one of their family members. And so a couple days before they actually get here, you'll start picking up on their presence in the house, and they're waiting for their loved ones or whatever. And then when we finally get together, sometimes, it feels like a crowd. We've had sometimes as many as 20 spirits waiting to come through to greet the people that are here. You know, family members, whatnot.
Wonderful.
And it's like I just couldn't imagine this years ago, and I think it is our times.
And the coolest part is, the more we do here, week by week by week, the more they're becoming comfortable with us, and the more they're getting used to, okay, here we go again. And so new things are happening, you know. Now we're getting photographic evidence. I don't know if all of you had seen the picture that we got, that Pam got in the basement of the shadow figure. It was fantastic, right in the middle of the laser grid. It was great shot. We weren't getting stuff like that before, you know. Now we're getting a lot more audible EVPs where we're hearing it, you know, things like this. So the more we do, and the more questions we ask, and the more we show an interest in them, the more comfortable they're becoming, and the more willing they are to come out and talk.
It's like a familiar energy from what I understand. And I know Steve and I have talked about this a couple times, and Bryan just, you know, intuitively understands this because I think he was the one who explained it to me. But it's but it's basically, you know, that connection. It's a familiar energy. You know, when you close your eyes and you're like, say you're going to sleep, but you can tell somebody's walked in the door in the bedroom, you know, or you can tell when your cats come in, or, you know, and you know what to expect next because he's going to jump on the bed, and that's the thing. You feel it change. And I think you guys are feeling that too. And what you said, you know, they know that's coming, that someone's coming. You have to understand too that, you know, if you have a house right now, I have somebody, you guys are going to get calls on this, trust me. She was a coroner for 20 years, and she didn't know she had a light till she got home and turned hers off, and they started showing up. So she doesn't know what to do because her kindness and her kind heart and her that love light, you know, shown, and they were connected, you know, they're coming to that. And she's like, well, how do I get rid of them? And I said, well, honey, I'm not really that person. I mean, I could, but see, you don't understand. I want to sit down and talk to them and ask them why they're here. What do they need?
Right.
You know me. Because you don't just poof, you know, if they have something to say, or if they want their story to be told, or they need to be talked down. We've talked about this before. It's like therapy, and sometimes it takes some time. You don't just shove them out. You know, you set your ground rules and everything else. But if it's something that's either a negative entity that was human, or if it was an entity that never was human, and it has that power, it'll know you're coming to help too, and it will try to stop you in dreams, like Bryan was talking about, and I know Steve have too.
It's
Now,
the respect.
Are you guys all active dreamers?
I mean, so. I personally have a ton of them, and I get a little nervous when I stop having them.
I sleep just fine, thank you.
Yeah, I can sleep all the time now. My dreaming's never been my strong suit.
Yeah.
Well,
I have had visitation dreams. I'd love to throw out something that everybody could try. Can I do a little quick thing here for the listeners?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Okay. I like to tell people, someone gave me this gift, and I wish I could remember exactly who it was so long ago, but we're talking about connecting to, like, say, a loved pet, okay? And you want to know that they're okay. Start there, because pets don't have, especially their love connection, that never dies, people. That love does not die. It just goes on and on. I think it's the strongest emotion and vibration out there, and energy out there. So while you're going to sleep, just before you're going to sleep, ask your spirit guides, or whatever you want to say. If you want to say angels or your higher self, whatever your gig is, trust me, they're all there. You start saying, can you help me bring that pet to me, and let me know in a dream that they're okay. And usually if you go to sleep, you kind of meditate a little bit before you go to sleep. Usually about the third night, you'll get a dream. And I did it. And I promise you, it was most vivid. Like we're talking about the vivid dream. You can smell, you can taste, you can feel. The colors are crisp. And all of a sudden, here comes my dog running up to me, and things like I had forgot he did. You know, he used to come up and just kind of, like, he was part chow, part shepherd, and he used to like kind of chew on my arm like, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, not bite, but just chew, and then turn around and just bang into you like as a hug. And I could smell him. I could, oh my God,
Yep.
he was fine. So try that. And I suggest you do it with like, a cat or a dog or something along those lines, because they have such an easy road back and forth. They don't have all the hang-ups that we do. So give it a whirl. See if it works.
Yep.
Yeah, I know. Like I said, I'm not much of a dreamer, but I know when I've had an astral projection, because obviously, I'm very aware of everything and it's very vivid. The weird thing is sometimes it's so at the moment for me, like the one oftentimes when I'm projecting, I can, like we all experience it. You're I don't know if it's flight or you just float. You sort of just take your hands and you're going up. And sometimes here I am in this sphere, and I'm trying to duplicate the same thing and get frustrated sometimes when it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's what blocks it.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating if you it's very frustrating to have an experience and then to want to try to duplicate and you can't duplicate it.
Yeah.
A lot of times, if you've ever felt in your dreams like you just dropped, like you fell, that's your body your spirit going back into your body. You were outside of your body and astral projecting. So there are some really cool things that do take place if you can sleep. But you'll know the difference between a dream and some kind of experience because, like I said, more details. But I'll tell you, when I have them, I am just wiped out when I wake up. It's as if I've been up all night, and technically, I've been up all night.
Right.
And it's very draining of you. So you always have to take that precaution. I like Sycso's mentality of start with your pets. They like you.
Yeah.
Don't start with Uncle Fred, who was a drunk and was mean during the holidays, and you don't want to do that.
Well, and that's true in any of this, whatever level or however you're coming, whether it's on contact with spirit or these experiences, that the energy drain. That's we oftentimes we'll use an EM pump here with the table tip, and just to help minimize that drain somewhat.
Yeah.
It occurs. We don't need the pump for the action to happen. It just sort of allows us to have a little longer experience, and it's not quite as draining on us, but it all is draining. And there's times when I found myself what I call spirit avoidance a little bit. I need a rest. I don't,
What do they call it? They call it the paranormal hangover.
Yes.
And unfortunately, you weren't drinking some good rum before you got to that hangover, or some whiskey,
And I can recommend, of course, your meditation, your protection before and after, all the sage before and after, your crystals and things, of course. But there's something that really works if you can raise your endorphins a little, before and after, and that's chocolate. So the higher the cocoa value in it, the better it's going to be. And everybody eat chocolate before and after. And that really raises your own, Yeah.
She Moore even added another thing to that for me, and that is put a little peppermint in it, so peppermint bark. So you get the chocolate and the peppermint. And she was talking about how I guess the pure essence of peppermint is a bit of a protection as well.
Yep.
And so, Stephen, do you, when you go out, when you're, and this will also be with you, Bryan, are there special precautions you take when you're going out to hopefully engage or investigate Bigfoot or, one of those type of creatures?
Yeah, I have certain little totems that I carry with me, crystals. And I've got some other things that just have personal meaning to me, something to kind of keep you grounded and to keep that negative energy away, or in the worst case scenario, to absorb it, to keep it from getting to you. And then all
the same kind of way we use minerals or crystals protect us from spirit, or negative energies. Then you're you're doing something similar when you're involving that end, it sounds
that
like.
seems to work out there as well. And likewise, you want to sage it before you go out and then after you get back to remove any impurifications from it. And then something I've learned more lately is carry a little piece of iron with you. A lot of these encounters that people are having now in the woods are related to the Fae and the Fae cults and religions going back to hundreds of years ago, particularly in Ireland and places like that. That all ties together. If you look at the stories of the Fae, it's the same thing. Abductions, people taken, don't know where they've been. Very similar to some of the Bigfoot encounters and things like that too. Bigfoot seems to be maybe a type of Fae or an elemental. So a little piece of iron can go a long way in protecting you. Also,
like a smaller iron rod or a bar or something
I've
like
got
that.
a big iron bolt that I carry that's got some Indian beads attached to it. And also take some offerings, tobacco, candy, a little bit of whiskey, something to leave in the woods to kind of pay your way.
Just out of curiosity, would magnetizing that iron, would that be of any effect, pro or con? Or
I don't know. I've never tried it. It might be worth looking into.
Yeah, I'm just thinking with the energy, you know, and the magnetic fields tying into the earth, I'm just wondering if that, you know, might add a little, add some to the measure. That's it. That's fascinating.
It's worth a try.
I don't think magnetizing anything is worth your while, or it's going to add to anything. But so I'm so happy you said what you said, Steve, because it's very important. Iron is very important. Now, what we've been told, and we've been threatened when we go on investigation, we now have iron bracelets that you can buy in Etsy. Okay, they're really inexpensive, and they're, you know, you're supporting a craftsperson who does, you know, that may be their living, and they probably got a hit. But here the secret is the iron has to be on your left wrist or hand, you know, area, and here's why. The reason why you shake hands right-wise is because it's a giving energy. When you get a left type of hand going there, or someone touches you with your left, it pulls in the junk. So you can get sick by actually, you know, it goes back to superstitions and folklore, but semi-proven. So what you do is you'll put iron on your wrist, your left wrist, preventing anything to entering you when you go into the woods. And even in some of the exorcism rites, they wear iron bracelets on their left wrist. My problem is I'm a left watch wearer. So now I have to go from a solid iron, like a bangle, I think it was, to something that's, you know, I'm trying to find somebody to make chainmail type of, like, you know, something that'll dangle. But the iron also is from within the earth. You are literally grounding yourself by having the iron on you. Yeah.
Looks like I'm going to be ordering some iron bracelets for a good day.
Peppermint bark, iron bracelet
right now for iron
chocolate, whiskey.
And you always told me I needed to stop eating all that damn chocolate. Now you know I got 2 candy bars in the bag downstairs in the bar right
exactly.
Sycso approved.
Yes.
We've actually they've been using whiskey in the basement.
Oh, that's good.
The ghosts or the investigators?
Both.
Both.
Because we know that there's at least 2 down there. One was a customer of the
Speakeasy.
And the other one was a hooch runner.
Nice.
So he won't give his name because for some reason he still feels he'll get in trouble with the law if his name is known as a hooch runner. So we'll go down there, and when we feel like the customer, the frequent customer, and I believe he gave us the name of Silas or Cyrus.
Yeah, Cyrus. Yeah.
When we feel we're making contact with him, we'll pour 3 shots. We'll put one out inside the laser grid, and with either a K2 or can't remember the name. The REM pod.
Right.
And then one for myself and the other investigator, and we'll do our shots, and then we'll wait to see if he comes and interacts with his shot. And we've gotten a lot of good Fazobox conversation about it. We've had the GS2 laser grid going crazy. So we've had a lot of good interaction with that.
Yeah, we just did a daytime investigation a couple of months, just like a month before summer started, and we were told by someone Katie Turner, psychic, who's fantastic. They said bring cigarettes, and we brought a cigarette. I lit it for him. I asked, and I put it down there, and you can actually, we're not touching it, and there is no wind whipping in this building, and you see the head glow, and then you start seeing rings come up. So it's very interesting, and they were very, very warm and accepting of it. It's pretty cool. That's a good question right there.
Well, I'm a smoker, so I'm always prepared.
Me too.
I just posted one of our friends up the road, a frequent visitor here. We've had, at a number of the sessions, we've had spirit guides come through and introduce themselves to some of the people at the table.
That's great.
And I would say maybe we've had 4 or 5 where that's occurred. And so Jerry was posting about how do you know who your spirit guides are? Is there a way you might suggest to start to, I guess, either realize who your spirit guides are or communicate with them? That's open to anybody.
You guys got something? I would do the same thing as I said to do with the dog. Most everything is right before you go to sleep. You're in your meditative sleep, and before you're basically while you're asleep, you're in that open kind of a space. Let's just say it that energy. So I would do that, but I would like to say something about spirit guides that I've learned through the Native American side of me, and I know Steve has as well. That something you might not understand about spirit guides. Whoever's got this supernatural wheel knows what they're driving, because everybody seems to get one when you're born, one or more. And usually that one stays with you throughout your entire life journey and on to the other side. But as you grow and change, you get other spirit guides come in that is a specialist to what you're going through next, if that makes sense. And sometimes you get more than one. And you also can have animals, that's different than your spirit animal, and it's different than your character. Like a lot of times we'll say I'll have like bear medicine. That's totally different. Right. Your spirit guides come through and leave as they're done helping, and then usually have that 1 or 2 that goes through, if that makes sense.
It's kind of like school. You have your homeroom teacher that you have throughout the entire year, but as you go from class to class, you have a different teacher for each class.
Yeah. Yep. I asked the same question because I was told by numerous people for years, just ask to introduce, ask your spirit guides to introduce themselves to you. And I've never gotten a definitive answer. And let me tell you, my life has been pretty weird. So actually, I'm going to go back to Katie Turner. And I said to Katie, who are my spirit guides and why do they drink? Because there's no way, there is absolutely no way I can be going through what I'm going through. I'm like, they got to be drunk. And she laughed. And she was the one that was able to introduce me. I forgot his name, and I got to go look back on the video. But apparently I have one that is a shorter male with blondish hair who's English. And I said, well, that's bloody good. It's a bloody good thing. And we just got a ding. But it's, I think they make their presence. I don't know if they're allowed to make their presence known all the time. Some of them probably are like everything else. They're chartered or tasked for a specific purpose. It's a difference between a spirit guide and a guardian angel.
Right.
And I think we all have those too. Again, I asked, why do they drink? So one day I will, I think over time, as you start developing and maybe opening your third eye, and you start really accepting the fact that everybody does have the ability to have abilities, you'll get closer to that point where you can have conversations with them. What do you think I should do? Should I go to that store? Should I do this? And
I'm glad you mentioned
Yeah.
that about, opening the third eye and that. Is there, I would imagine there's a lot of similar experience where whether you're involved in the spirits, the paranormal, or even the other aspects of, let's just say, the weird world, that opening oneself up along those lines to new experiences, new knowledge, expanding your knowledge base. We have a thing in our church. We talk about building our spiritual base and what we know. We call it precept upon precept, just like mathematics. It's hard to understand calculus if you haven't mastered the basic algebras. And I think in all these realms, we have to experience, take in, start to formulate our belief system to work with us in all of this. So I think that there again, there's so many common themes that run the gamut here.
I think something you gotta, when I had an idea that maybe I had some, I'll call them gifts or whatever, but I never, didn't really know until I talked and dealt with our psychic. I was told by my buddy Al, we vet everybody that goes out with us, because we have our psychic look into everybody, because if someone's having a rough time, it could be very dangerous for them as well as ourselves. We can't let you go. And when the first one, Al being new to this, but he wants to put the right people in, they vetted everybody, and apparently I had, she said, wow, but I keep walls up. I said, yeah, I do keep walls up. I keep a club on my car too. I'm in New York City. What am I supposed to do? Let my wheel, So, but you got to understand, when I started to seek out what you're talking about, Jim, don't take it lightly, and understand that even if you don't want to open the Pandora's box, it's going to open. And once you do, it's hard to close it, but you may not want to, because you may get so much benefit from it that it really could revolutionize your way of thinking in your life. It's really an interesting, it's a good thing.
My wife for years was very tolerant of me. Dave and I are out, and we're doing we're cutting our teeth at Gettysburg and doing this, doing that. And, she put up with it. It's really a minor interest and stuff, but not really to get involved. But lately now, especially with all the communication we've been having, it's really scratching her itch. And so just the other night, we were doing a session here, and as it turned out, it was a 2-year-old Jewish child came through for my wife. And it was a child that had, I'm sorry, 2-month-old. It was a child that had died from SIDS, and wanted to come through and thank my wife for her genealogy work. She's a devoted researcher in genealogy, and we're always working on families. That's and of wonderful. Course, we do. So this spirit came through, wanted to thank my wife for that. And then as we continued to communicate, it became apparent that this child had crossed over, that it was seeing this light and it was scared. And so we were able to, with the group here, it was a long process. I'm going to say maybe about 40 minutes, but we were able to allay the fears of that child, sort of reinforce with her that the love, the rewards, everything that's good about eternity is there within the context of that light. And then we actually wound up employing some spirits that were around, including a spirit of another SIDS child, to help her walk through to the light, in which case she did. And then we were still able to have communication where she was able to verify with us that she was in the light. And you could feel
Different.
You can feel that energy, alteration and stuff. Really a quite remarkable session. That's the first we've had something of that nature before. But the fact that my wife was integral in that and involved, and it affected her going home. She was like, she really felt. She said, she's really bolstered by the work that's going on and all of that. I mean, it really adds a new dimension and meaning to life from our part of the sphere.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah. And the way everything connects to, I'm sorry, Brian, the way everything connects to, like people would say, how can a 2-month-old? Okay, well, we're talking consciousness here. So stop thinking physical and think consciousness. Start thinking energy. Start thinking vibration. Like you might ask somebody who's vibrating on a very high frequency, where that's where they keep their vibration, and they do that every day. They might be doing healing work or whatever it may be, and then they ask that person, "Well, have you ever seen a negative energy?" And they won't even admit. They'll say, "No, not me. I don't see them." And there's it doesn't mean they don't exist. It's just that they're vibrating so high that they won't come around. Do you see what I mean?
Yep.
And like we're talking about the iron, we're talking about, I do gem jewelry and, all of that, the metaphysical and things that come out of the earth, there's it's so real. It doesn't care if you believe in it or not. Do you understand what I mean? It's like disbelief in gravity is not going to keep you from falling down the stairs. It's not. And I know each one of us have had those conversations, and people say, "I don't believe in ghosts," or "I don't believe in this." I'm like, well, they believe in you, because they're here. And, we need to know why. Are you in their space? Are they in your space? Or, what's going on here? And it takes a while to unravel that. We've had multiple.
Another part of that, too, in my opinion, is a child of that young age, and this goes back to the theory that most of us have, that children are able to see and interact with spirit so much easier than adults. Why? Because they have not been polluted by the rest of the adult world telling them that's not real, don't believe in that, that's evil, if you see a ghost, you're crazy. They haven't had any of that, especially if one's so young.
Indeed.
Is absolutely true. And also you have to remember that they are closer to the entrance into this. So they're coming from there and coming back through and coming here. So they're a little bit closer to it. The further we move away from that, it's up to your own individual. Because it's all free will. Like somebody was asking about the spirit guides. It's free will. They're not going to help you. They're going to guide you. They're not called, spirit masters or spirit this, or, they're called guides, so you can ask them, can you give me a sign of, should I need to go this way or that way, and possibly try that way? Because unless you exert your free will and let your energy out and accept that in, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're not going to just get involved. Like people tell me all the time, well, if I have a guardian angel, why did I hit the tree? Because, honey, you were supposed to hit the tree. That's why. They don't stop things.
In talking about that, and again, we're looking at some crossovers into all these various fields. Do you think, we firmly believe that the aura or the true regard of an individual either is attractive and helps attract communication with the spirit world, or is a turnoff. Does that same thing hold true in dealing with Bigfoot and those other animals, or don't you think there's a relative value there?
Gosh, what do you think on that one, Steve? Is he with us?
Yeah, I don't know.
It might be, but he's probably trying to fix something on the computer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Steve, what do you think about that?
Yeah, sorry, I was having to deal with something on the
That's what I thought.
on the cell phone here. Sorry. I don't know.
The connection. I know we've talked about that a lot.
Like you, Steve, with all the experience you have and the makeup of yourself, do you think that that could be proved to be an attraction in any way for a Bigfoot to engage with you, or it doesn't really have any relevance?
I think it could. Again, they're all individual creatures, like Sycso was saying, and I think it just like people are different. Those cryptids are different. And some it could attract, some it could push the other way. Now, Brian, I've heard a story that I heard it told secondhand, but it was about you. But supposedly you were out camping or hiking, and you had to relieve yourself on a tree. And then shortly thereafter, had a dogman encounter.
Yeah, no, we were coming back from doing we were in ghost mode. But my buddy Al was hearing a little bit. I heard some big dogs barking, but I wasn't in dogman mode or Bigfoot mode. I was in ghost mode, and we were at a cemetery that technically was a mass grave for a variety of individuals from the age of 2 months, like we've been talking about, up to 90 whatever. This was at Letchworth Village Cemetery, where all the misfits of society would be. And it was gotten cold. We were there for a while. I had a little bit too much to drink, as far as some cola to keep
it was up. The spirit guides that did it.
Right. But the thing is, when we walked back to the car, there was no way I was going to relieve myself at the cemetery out of respect for the dead. So when we were walking to the car, we could see it, and we see something with eye shine, and we're like, maybe I'm thinking deer initially, but it happened. I'm on the passenger side, and we see this thing sitting there, and it's on its haunch, it's sitting. You see the pointy ears, you get the snout. It's just in the shadows, about 25 feet away from us. And I'm on a 3-foot grade, and I'm 6'1", so that makes me 9 feet 1 inch in appearance level wise. And this animal's was just below my nose a little bit. So sitting down, the animal is almost 9 feet tall. And it was just standing there. So my buddy Al, he's putting his equipment away. I don't have firearms, but I have 3 machetes. So I still had the machetes on. I threw the bag in, and I had to relieve myself. So I started relieving myself in front of this creature who's just sitting there. He didn't move. He just saw the eye shine, which was a yellowish eye shine. It wasn't your standard dog eye shine. And I'm like, oh my, I knew what I was doing because I had dogs. I was saying to this creature, which looked like a dog man, I'm the boss. By urinating there, I was marking
your territory, establishing your dominance.
Right, and
I've told that story so many times. I almost didn't want to ask you tonight. I didn't want to know if it wasn't true because it's such a good story. I've gotten a lot of miles out of your story. But
I'm glad you have it. Everybody, Al is
Cisco told
get in the car, Brian. Get in the car, and I'm like, I'm not finished. I mean, I had to go. And I'm there, and then what happened was he kind of moved over, and I could see him. He's turned back, and he's packing and looking, and like we're keeping an eye on this thing. And then the next thing, what happened was, it lowered itself and it disappeared. And then immediately, I'm even thinking about it right now, I'm getting the goose flesh. That's my key initially on cases when things are going down. When that kicks in, that means something's going to happen. And in this case, we thought, and I was thinking the same thing as Al was, this thing was creeping up like, oh, you want to be the boss? Oh, you want to dominate? Oh, okay, let's see how you can do it. And I think the reason why it didn't come at me initially is they know what machetes are. And the indigenous people will tell you straight up, don't bring a gun to a dog man. Bring a machete. Because guns will just not bounce off, but it's like shooting a moose. It'll get lodged in there, and you're just going to piss it off. But a machete will slice through 15 layers of leather. Not a problem. So I think if I had not had that machete there, I wouldn't have finished, urinating in front of it. I would have been a meal. But we got out, and as we got out, we kind of just floored it. Like, we knew it was that imperative moment. And that was as close as I've ever gotten to this cryptid. And I'm still amazed because they happen to be very aggressive cryptids. They're really aggressive and they're really smart and they know what they got. But yeah, I'm glad you got the mileage out of the piss story.
I'm like, oh man, that's
he may have gone back to his pack. He may have gone back to his pack and told him, You believe this guy just marked my street?
Yeah.
I couldn't attack him. Yeah,
That's an insult.
Like this.
I said the same thing. Like if I had my buddy who was still alive that did comics drawing for Marvel, I would have told him this. He would have driven it. He would have drew me those 3 or 4 blocks. Like, so I go back there, and this fat guy is peeing right in front of me. Who does he think he is? You know,
like in the
it
Big
would be
Lebowski when they broke in and peed on his rug. You know, the same kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know.
Now,
it-
with
if
the
you're gonna
dog
speak-
being cryptids, you have an odor there as well, generally. Am I correct?
Sometimes you do have an odor. Sometimes, and I think
I mean, I know it's nothing like the Bigfoot. You know
No, sometimes you don't get Bigfoot odor, and that's really
really.
odd. Yeah, and I think it may have to do with what is it, pheromones? And I think it has to do with the age of the actual species you're dealing with, and whether it's that young Turk rut, like, hey, smell me, I'm a man type, or whatever.
Okay.
Other times you don't get that, and that's where it gets a little bit weird, and you've got to be on your toes depending on the area.
Wow, that's neat. I
yeah.
didn't. It's logical. You know, they're going through a progression as well, and their hormones and whatever are maturing just like human species.
And that kind of ties in. You hear a lot of Bigfoot encounters where a female is menstruating and she'll have like a Bigfoot peeking in the window or something like that. It's
all the time.
Yes,
by
yes.
That. And
now, is there? And I'm not to be crude, but I'm just.
I'm going to cut you off, Jim, just before you get started.
Right before he's crude.
Commercial. We got to take our mid-show commercial, and then we can pick right back up. So everybody, stay tuned. We'll be right back after this quick message.
WLFE Digital Network is now on digital television. If you're into ghosts, Bigfoot, UFOs, and the creepy, then WLFE has a TV channel for you, Paranormal View. Watch all of your favorite WLFE video talk shows on one channel. Shows like Paratalk Radio, Step Into the Paranormal, Skeptical Help Bar, The Creepy Parlor, and more. Looking for something else? Do you support the LGBTQ plus community? WLFE has brought all of their LGBTQ shows like Inside the Drag Closet, Everything Yet Nothing, Across the Pond, and Rainbow Soul all into one place. A new TV channel called LGBTQ Friends. The third channel is a Variety Unlimited. Here you'll find a wide variety of talk shows you know and love, like Just Cindy, Card Pulls and Coffee, Real Talk with Dom, The Bipolar DM, Meet the Author, and Movie Review 5. The best part of watching these shows is that they're all available to watch at one location, one website, WLFE-DB.com.
You are listening to WLFE-DBRadio.com, where our shows are your shows.
Listen to the WLFE-DB podcast, available on Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Check out shows like Paratalk Radio, Inside the Drag Closet, and Step Into the Paranormal. Now, on to your favorite podcast app.
This is Dominic Santasero with Real Talk with Dom. You are listening to WLFE-DBRadio.com, where our shows are your shows.
Hey guys and dolls, this is Casey DeVille, the better half of DeVille Inc., Baltimore, Maryland. If you're ever in Baltimore, stop in and see me and Tony. Invisible Bree, 5920 Eastern Avenue, Baltimore, Maryland, 21224. Give us a call if you're in the area, 410-400-9641, or look us up on the web at DeVilleInc.com. DeVille Inc., where we specialize in you.
Oh yeah, life just got sweeter now that WLFE-DB has merchandise. Show your support by purchasing your t-shirts for WLFE, Paratalk Radio, Inside the Drag Closet, and more. But it doesn't stop there. T-shirts, coffee mugs, tanks, buttons, cloth bags, and more. Go to WLFE-DB.com. On the top bar, click on the merchandise tab and bam, there you go. You got merch. Support the shows. WLFE-DB.com.
You're listening to WLFE DB Radio. Now, back to our program.
All right, and we are back.
When I was getting ready to get crew. No, but you know how like I used to take our Boy Scout troops out backpacking, and on the Shenandoah National Park, they have a very one of the highest concentrations of black bears on the East Coast, and so we took precautions, to protect against if we had an encounter with the black bear. One of the things that they've often cautioned women, especially maybe if you're dealing with the larger bears like a grizzly or something, that women could be in danger if they're in their cycle.
Yeah.
Because those kind of odors, they're picked up by the animals, and it does represent an additional danger to a woman. And I was just wondering, as you were talking about the Bigfoot women, undergoing their periods, I'm just wondering if there might be a precautionary aspect to a female human, going out looking for Bigfoot, and it would just happen to be her period.
I would highly recommend she does not go at that point.
That's what I'm thinking.
Al, who's in the chat room right there, he went out. I couldn't make it to an investigation, one of our spots, and he brought a couple of women, and I think one of them, I'm almost positive, and I didn't ask personally because I wasn't there, but was about to have that cycle, and at one point, they had like a lot of monkey barks, like real excitement, and that's because I think these younger Squatch are again, they're wild men for a reason. They're wild for a reason. They're reacting as if they would, they're sensing what's going on. They know what that means, and they're going through that, itch as well. So it was at one point Al had to, they said it was time to go, and they were going out, and they were kind of following, getting closer, and Al stopped in the middle road, and he was like, "Cut it out," and his Al tone, and he said no, he was defending them, their mind type of thing, and they got out, and one of them was a little unnerved by the whole experience. I don't think she'll ever be Sasquatching again, but the whole thing is, even if you're cut yourself, you're going into the woods, and that scent of blood can be smelled by many a creature there.
Yep.
And you've got to be very cautious about that as well. So yeah, I would highly recommend you do not go out Sasquatching or in the woods too often if you are at cycle, because you're really going to endanger everybody.
Mm-hmm. So true. And can I ask a quick question? Am I the only one in here thinking there's a book in here somewhere?
Yeah, no. Well, between you and Steve,
I call it. Dagummit, I got it first.
Yeah. Between you and Steve, I'm sure there'll be 3 books out of this deal.
Wow.
Cycle of the Sasquatch.
Cycle. There it is, buddy.
I can see more on the adult entertainment side, like sex Sasquatch.
I'm not going
We
to tell you where
got
my mind
what's
was
the
going,
one Taken by the Bigfoot?
Yeah, there was a series there, but something you said before before it started with cycling is, I find, and Al and I have always said this, your intention is very important.
Yes.
And when you go there and we call it an active encounter, AIE, intelligent encounter, where you actively, before you go into Sasquatch or to these situations for even ghosts or whatever, you literally take a moment to, I don't know if you want to call it meditate, but focus in on it and clear your thoughts, protect yourself with the white golden light and the love of God or whoever your higher power is that surrounds you as a protection. But say, we're not here to hurt you. We just want to have an interaction with you. And please, make it known that, we just want to have an interaction. We're not going to do anything to give you away. we're just, want to have that kind of a relationship, and they know it too. There is something by the intention when you have good intentions, and you can see it with kids. Kids know the good people versus the bad people. If I'm what do you call it, an empath. I hate it because anywhere I go, I get everybody's feelings. It is the worst special gift you could have. I mean, it's
Sycso
like,
and I have talked about that. I can't go to like a children's hospital.
Oh
I can't go to a nursing home or anywhere like that without I put up
Shopping mall.
shields and stuff because it just absolutely drains me.
I was we were in a hotel recently because we had to go to look at, we're talking about moving. We're maybe moving to Florida, but, and I was picking up on, two different individuals immediately, and they were not good things. One was very depressed, probably sick or a death in the family, because that's what it got me to feel. And another one was probably, I don't know, a couple of hours shy of being a serial killer.
God.
So and my wife was like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "We gotta go." And we left.
You go.
You go. And
You go.
I don't have time to explain it to you, and I don't care if you believe it or not. It's true. So intention's very important in everything you're doing.
Well, and animals have an inherent sense. I remember years ago, I used to do a lot of caving when I was in high school days and later.
Awesome.
And we were down in Virginia in the mountainous region, and we didn't realize it, but hunting season had just opened, deer hunting season. So we're on this tract of land, and the ladies allowed, the owner allowed cavers on the property. They had this really neat wild cave that had about a 40-foot angel wing formation as you got down. It was about a 60-foot pit, and you're descending next to this fabulous angel wing. But as we're up top, here's all these deer all around us. They knew inherently that we were no danger to them. Good gosh, they weren't no more than 20, 30 feet from us, a whole pile. And we are literally up above. We're looking down toward the river, and here's all the hunters, maybe like 150 feet below, walking the edge of the river, and the deer are standing there with us, looking down at the hunters.
Yeah, awesome.
Suckers.
Great story.
That image always stuck with me. They knew we were no threat to them.
Yeah.
But
So I got a question for Steve, actually.
Sure.
Do you, when you go out for your Squatch encounters and your cryptid encounters, are you strictly on West Coast, or do you travel, or do you make appearances at special things out our way, or?
Well, I grew up on the East Coast in Southern Appalachia and have a lot of experiences there. Right now, I'm just pretty much on the West Coast of Washington, Oregon, but I have plans to travel in the very near future. So,
Excellent. Well, I'll be the first one to say, you ever make it out our way, I would love to go out for one of those.
okay, sounds great. Now, I've got a question for everybody that I've wondered about. We're talking about intent and things like that. These guys on TV that do the Sasquatch mating calls, what would they do if one of them worked? If you had an amorous Sasquatch come charging out of the woods, you run, you take one for the team.
It would be like a prison movie.
Yeah.
It would be like a prison movie.
They made it.
From the book,
it's called Deliverance.
But that's the thing.
I'd be
the
leery.
unaired episode of Oz is what that would be.
I would be
Well, see,
leery
that's
of
what
that.
I wanted to ask the listeners. Do you see, if you're listening, do you see how everything's connected? We talked about intention and all those things. Every single one of these things have that, either a telepathic, as well as an energy connection. Animals, what is that? Are they just reading with their intuition? We'll never know. Are they picking it up telepathically as well? What are they doing? Are they just watching? What are they feeling out? Energy. Because a rabbit can have his back to a hawk and feel it coming. So we can feel the same things, and I believe everybody can do that, but we've talked ourselves out of it so much. It's like, oh, that's crazy, or whatever. And the minute you start shutting that down, I had an experience just recently where I'm working, and I was getting these what I get, and I'm getting it. So it's, known filters. We all have them where it's like familiar, when I hear it the way I'm hearing it, I know it's someone who's crossed over and it's coming on a wave of energy of love. Okay. So they're giving it to me. They're giving me a song. And I'm like, okay, who is this for? I don't think it's for me. I'm feeling it's for somebody else. So they're trying to break into the energy. They're trying to connect their energy, because that's all a medium is. If you, whatever label you want to put on it, it's a bridge. It's just a bridge. That's all it is. And a connection. And so it's trying to connect via me to this person. Well, I finally figured, I said, you're going to have to tell me who this is, because I don't know these people. I'm working new. And then I got to walk up to somebody I just started working with and go, hey, do you have an Aunt Betty? Well, she wants her shoes back, whatever it is. So, we got to go through that too. But then again, I've kind of gotten into that thing like, okay, it's going to be a 40-second or 1 minute connection with me of embarrassment if they don't want to hear it. But it could be a connection for their lifetime if they accept it. So who am I to not give it to them? But it's still free will. It was the free will of the spirit to come through, to find the light, to get to the blah, 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 blah. And then I go to give the message to the person. Now I'm getting songs with this person's name in it, so I know who it is. For whatever reason, this person used music and things like that. So I go to the person and I said, do you perhaps have, does this mean anything to you? Or does this mean anything? And I'm easing into it. And I said, well, someone's trying to give you a message from the other side. And I feel like it's very important. And she looks at me and she says, I don't care, and walks away. The minute she did that, door shut.
Yep.
Their free will. She cut the energy off and it went away, and it may never come back.
Yeah.
See, that's what happens.
I want to get an impression from you three about something. And Sycso, I'm pretty sure I told you the story about my accident I had when I was active duty. But for Bryan and Steve, while I was active duty, I was in a really serious automobile accident out of maneuvers where I was driving a truck that rolled down the side of a hill, 50-foot hill, nothing but lava rock, and I wound up being in a coma for 3 weeks. Now I have no memory of the coma itself. Like I don't remember any visions or anything like that. So from the time they put me on the chopper to take me to shock trauma, and the time I wake up, I remember one thing, and it was the day before I came out of it. I heard a woman's voice and a man's voice talking. And the man said, if this doesn't work, we'll have to take it. And the woman said, well, let's hope it works, doctor. And the next day, I came out of the coma, and they had informed me that the day before, what they were doing the whole time I was out was wheeling me and all my machines down to a therapy room and putting my right leg into a hot whirlpool to try and get the circulation back. And they made the decision the day before I came out of it that they would give it one last try, and it didn't work. They're going to amputate my leg. So that's the only memory I have from all 3 weeks. I found it odd that it happened the day before they did that.
Yeah.
It was
probably shocked you out of that coma, because, how did you know what they were talking about? It could have been something you really wanted to keep.
That bit of information was purposely allowed to go through to get you and your body to kick into gear to respond to what they were doing. Yeah, whomever it may be, or whatever spirit it was there with you. And yes, you did have somebody gardening, being a guardian angel over you. First of all, your time was not then. Second of all, that was like, this guy's, he's strong enough to deal with it. He's going to deal with it. And they kicked you into gear, so you heard it to actually help them help you. It does happen a lot.
So basically, that information was allowed to come in to shock me into my body restarting, so to speak.
Right. You had so much trauma to your system that if you were more aware of it, you would have gone into shock and died. And your body, the body's an amazing thing. And also I think the divine presence is amazing and knows when to shut you down so your body can deal with it. And then it knows when to kick it back into gear and say, hey, you got to start working now. A lot of near-death experiences happen the same way. I'm not, saying yours was one, but people have a near-death experience. They'll go and they'll get up there and they'll see how awesome it is. And they make a decision, or a loved one will tell them if it's not your time, you have to go back. And they begrudgingly do. And once it kicks in, that's when the pain hits and reality of life kicks in. But that's the reason for it, is to help them get through that trauma. It's very, very odd. I've seen it numerous times like that. Why you were allowed to listen to that? Because if you didn't hear that, they would have taken your leg. Your body would not have responded properly.
While we're on the near-death experience kind of thing, I'm just going to throw it out to anybody in the audience that might be listening tonight. We're hoping to, in the future, again, we haven't set aside any date, but we're actually hoping to host a conference here at the Hoover House on near-death experiences, where we've had a couple people that have had such, and we're going to build frank and open discussion. We'll build a little luncheon, make it a nice, pleasurable event. So if anybody's listening tonight, and if you've had a near-death experience and you feel comfortable talking about it, or in an open forum discussing it, please get in touch with me, because we're looking to set something up in the future along that evidence. I have a feeling there'd be a great deal of attention and interest in that. I know we already have a couple. Steve, my partner in the Hoover House, he's been to the other side and back. I think he died 3 times when he had his massive heart attack. And then he has a friend who's also done similar situations with him. So we'd like to get maybe 3 or 4 people. So again, anybody listening, if you've had a near-death experience and you're in the area where you might be able to come down, we'll put you up as a guest, and we'd like to build an event going forward. I just think that would be a real nice subject to touch and have it in a nice, relaxed setting, so we can.
Does being married and having children count as near death?
Yes. I was going to say, you beat me to it, Bowden, you rotten. I was going to say I had a near-death experience, but I divorced him, so.
Yeah. My wife just walked in, too, and gave me a look. It's a joke, honey.
You're going to have fun now.
I love you.
You try to get serious. You got a bunch of jokesters.
You know what the problem you're going to have? Well, I've met a couple people that have claimed near death, and in general, very few will talk about it because it's so depressing. You're not understanding the weight and emotional baggage that goes away, and all it's replaced is with pure love and just happiness and blissfulness. And by coming back here, they're depressed because they want that again. It's so I think you'll get people there, and I think it's a fantastic idea to do it. You should be hosting things like that. And now I'm planning to come to your neck of the woods to that Gettysburg thing. Yeah, I'm working on the missus for that one, because I want to see you guys, meet you in person, and maybe I'll get that lady over there, Sycso, the caravan with me, or come in.
Yep. It's done deal. Yep.
But I love the fact that you want to do this. This is what we do. It's not just about, this is part of the research, for everybody. I don't know, Steve, if you, in your research, but you have to have these conferences. You have to have interaction with real people, and ask them questions also, not only just live streaming, but privately, because some people don't want to go into the details,
It is.
Right.
It's really personal. It's as personal as you go into the thing. But, it's also a validation, just like we like these groups. We like the stories. We read the books. We talk this. You tell the stories. We talk with each other because it's all about, did I see what I see? Did you see it too? So I know I'm not crazy. Did you feel that? What did it sound like? All of that? And that has to do with ghosts or cryptids or any of that,
See, now, from my point of view, something like that, if I was to get someone who said, well, I've had one, but I'm not comfortable talking about it because it's depressing, what I would try to get them to understand is it may sound depressing as you're telling it, but you've also got to understand that's inspirational. Mm-hmm. There's somebody out there who may be thinking about ending it, and something like that could be the inspiration they need to stay on our side of the fence and keep on fighting to whatever it is that's got them down. I mean, it's not like you chose to die and then you then made the choice to come back. You just were in a situation where that choice was presented to you, and you made the tougher decision, which is to come back and stay living, because that's the hard part,
Yes.
And I think there's a lot of people who could really find stories like that inspiring.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, we just had a friend of my sister's was here last Friday, and she had an experience like that within the last 6 or 7 months. But there was a lot of, I guess, question marks from the experience, and a lot was left up in the open. And somehow she had remembered seeing her mother, who was on the other side. So we actually did a specific table tipping session here, and her mother came through, and it was real powerful. And she was able to answer and address a lot of questions that her daughter had about her experience. And she could still remember very vividly wanting to stay, and the warmth and the love and all that, the positive energy, but being told that it wasn't her time yet, and that, so she had questions like, did she really die, or was it, like somehow she was in this limbo land. And it was really neat because her mother came out and very clearly and precisely spoke to her and told her exactly what some of the symbolism was and what had transpired. And since coming back, and again, this is a rather short period, it isn't even a year yet, she made significant changes in her life. Her husband is on a tour of duty over in Afghanistan and is scheduled, I think, to get home here in September. So that's good news on her front. But, it was a very powerful. I think we spent almost an hour and a half in that session. And it was amazing what came out and the knowledge we gained. But see, this is not, and I want everyone to understand this is not entertaining, and this is not, trying to get some fancy shot or that. I mean, I really do think we've talked about the veil being thin, and I think this is the time for expansion. We're getting prepared for something.
Yep.
Whether this is, the start of the end of days or whatever. And we're to utilize this. I mean, I think we have, those of us who have a gift of whatever, I think there's a responsibility on our part to help each other out. We are our fellow man keeper and helper, and we're working together as a team in all of this to fulfill our life's path. And so that's from the beginning at the Hoover House, and that's why I felt very comfortable with Pam and Steve. I think we have a responsibility and a stewardship in all of this. I mean, we don't take it as a lark. I mean, we've really been blessed with some amazing experiences, and hopefully we can pass along some of that information and knowledge to others.
It's very interesting because the general consensus, and I don't want to speak for everybody that's here, but I've talked to some of you here on the side. that there's an awakening taking place, and specifically light workers are being tapped, whether you want to be tapped or not.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people that I'm encountering that had no clue they were a light worker. And some of which I've always been like, you people are crazy, you know. And now they're finding out in a very shocking way, there is something brewing. I can tell you that right now. I've had the feeling for the last 2 weeks, something's going down. And I think there is a huge war between good and evil taking place. And yes, there is good and evil.
Yes, spiritual warfare. Yep.
And it's beyond that. And here's the thing, and I'm not going to get preachy or religion, but I believe in the Lord. It matters not whether it's Christian, Jewish, Buddhist, or whatever. You believe in your Lord. The Lord, I believe, is represented the same Lord in every one of these religions for whatever reason. You have a good heart, good soul, you're a good person, and you believe in that Lord, you will dwell in the kingdom of heaven. And death is just a beginning. Not that I want to die. Trust me, I have 2 beautiful kids I want to see grow up. I want to see them get married, you know, because I want to pass those pains in the butt off to other people. but the fact is that we're here for a reason, and it's really funny. I don't know if any of Sycso or anybody else heard of it. I've heard by 3 other people, well, you chose to come at this time. I got to be honest, I don't recall that. I've had plenty of conversations with somebody, and I don't think I wanted to pick this time, but there apparently are souls right now that are hitting the transition period, and they're coming back again because they want to be here for this period.
Yes.
So something's going to take place, and it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. So
let me segue this into something that I just became aware of within the last few days. And of all things, I know it's one of those magazines like the Inquirer. So I'm not talking, I don't know, it's the Globe or whatever. So I'm not talking about a bastion here, but I read this article, and it provoked me. So I went in and was researching it, and found out the article was pretty accurate. There is here in the Washington, D.C. diocese, there is a Monsignor Stephen Rossetti, who's a priest, and evidently he has written a book. It got 5 stars, very excellently reviewed, and I've, of course, ordered it in. I haven't read it yet, so I'm at a disadvantage. The name of it is Diary of an American Exorcist. Now, let me give you a couple things. You know, right away, because I tend to downplay the demonic or the evil energies. You know, I know they're there, but I don't really get into them. Well, anyhow, this Monsignor basically claims he's doing 20 exorcisms a week in the Washington, D.C. area. And he has a couple neat things that sort of rang with me. One was a belief that I guess these negative energies. Oh, there you go. There you go.
Adding a little media to the media.
And fantastic. But he maintains that I guess these negative forces or whatever are able to use our technology against us, and particularly cell phones. He talks about a lot of really negative messages coming through with the cell phones and whatnot. He also maintains that these negative energies don't have to take possession, you know, of a person, that they can affect us in a variety of modalities. And finally, he maintains, and I know we've all talked, and we're not going to get into politics, but we've all discussed how uneasy we are with the society of today. I mean, everybody's at each other's throats. Everybody's trying to minimize each other, turn one segment against the other. And he maintains that a lot of that going on is because of the influence of these negative energies on us.
Yes.
And it just so much of this struck home. Now he did, I guess, one of the providing messages in that is that through the Lord Jesus Christ, that basically they are able to achieve a deliverance or success against these evil entities. So in other words, the power of good triumphs over evil, and he maintains that.
Always.
But I just didn't know if, obviously you're familiar with it, Bryan. I didn't know if you were familiar with Sycso or Steve. It really struck home, and I'm very anxious to read the book.
I don't play around or mess around with demonic. It's way above my pay grade. And something interestingly enough to know that if you look back at the real, the movie The Exorcist, one of the reasons why it was so scary, besides the subject matter, and there was a lot of freaky things that took place on set, the sound engineer for The Exorcist actually had like a PhD in sound, and it was the first movie to incorporate infrasound in the soundtrack. So it played on your nerves. That being said, in the real story of The Exorcist, it's based off of a real exorcism in the area, and the priest was Father Bowden.
Right.
And I found out about that, and I'm like, oh. But, it's like I don't play with it. You can ask Al. Way above my pay grade. We have other people that are more prepared and have better intention to play with that subject matter. But evil is evil, and it's, this is happening, and there are other religions that have an exorcism rite, and it's very interesting. Someone that Al and I have in common, who is a fantastic person, she mentioned, we were in the breadth of this, she mentioned the iron bracelets, and I guarantee you, if you talk to this guy, get him on your show and ask him, he'll come on. He'll discuss the iron bracelet with you and see if they're using it. And also, which is very interesting because it prevents the evil attachment, she sent both of us the Rite of Exorcism book to have in our possession because it's a powerful book. And I took it, of course. I'm not going to argue with her, but oh my, do I not want to have to deal with something like that?
Oh yeah, no, I'm in
no.
I'm
just telling you, this is above my pay grade type of thing.
No, mine too.
I hear you. I probably will read this book because it was there, and it'll be on one of the tail ends of, but there's a lot of stuff going on here, and of course, like I said in the beginning, demons and devils and these spirits are not necessarily the light bearer who was kicked out of heaven to rule the underworld, Lucifer. There are other entities that don't like man to begin with. The jinn are one of them. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
They hate us. Okay? And after the Lord gave whoever, I forgot it was David or whatever, the power to control them, to build the temple, they really hate us. Okay? So, this isn't, but for some reason, the name Jesus, they don't like. It doesn't matter who the entity is. So I think that, when you have Jesus there is some power behind that based on that religion. And it's very interesting that the three major religions of the world all have the same people involved in it in different capacities.
It's like I always say, and I'm going to shut up real quick and let Steve jump in here, but it's like I always say, it's the intent as well. And I don't know how many times I've told people electronic, travels. So whether it's a TV or whatever, I mean, I was listening to a radio show once that, a friend of mine was putting on, he was taking in calls. Well, that's great. He's taking in calls and he's saying, I got something in my house. It's, my kids are floating around the living room, whatever it was. And just, bad. And then all of a sudden and I'm like, you can't do this. You can't do this. You have to record this, clean it. put it and then put it out, because I felt it coming, and then all of a sudden you heard this just guttural, nasty growl, and I literally, like, I was going to throw up right there. I quick shut it off, ran and got all my stuff. I got holy water, I got the Bible, and I'm like, Mike, I need you now. Let's get this out, because it literally was jumping through the electronics. So the irresponsibility of people putting stuff on like TV, like, you see, well, fake or not, Exorcism Live, or, this live. And then you're sitting there with somebody who's got so many cracks in their windshield, they just need one little push to pop. Yep. Right in. The same with Ouija boards, the same with accepting your phone call. How many people here have gotten phone calls, or you see that phone call, God bless the ID, because you used to have to just pick up the phone to figure out who it is. But you see that ID, you are accepting mentally and physically, accepting and allowing that energy to come through when you hit, answer. So block it. Don't pick it up. Why are you allowing that energy to come in? Does this make sense? And as far as people coming in and saying, well, I chose this and I came in. I totally believe in soul groups. I totally believe in reincarnation. I have no evidence against it. I have more for it. So right. I've also heard, and I've had, like, we say, what are the dead dying to tell us? They keep saying, you pick this, you got to get through this. This is what you came here to learn, And I also heard one that's always I've loved was, they say, when you pick to reincarnate on this planet, ding, 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 you're automatically seen as a hero, because this is an awful place to have to go through to learn. Steve, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And like you're talking about the demonic stuff there, that's something I've always shied away from. My only sibling, older brother, he was an evangelistic pastor, held church for, I think, about 35 years, and he was Pentecostal, and that was part of what he had, was a deliverance ministry. And I've seen things and heard stories of things, and he would tell people, this, we're going to have they didn't call it an exorcism, that's more of a Catholic thing, but they'd say, we're going to cast out spirits tonight, we're going to cast out demons. If that bothers you, if you're not where you need to be, get out of here. You don't need to be here. And I was the same way. I was more than happy to leave, because you think about that in the Bible, where Christ was cast him out, the man that lived in the cemetery and cut himself with stones and stuff. They went into the swine jumped off the cliff into the sea and drowned themselves. And, you talk about this guy that works in D.C., there's probably more demons there than swine to cast him into. And,
there you go.
Yeah. It's really funny. There's a house in D.C., I forgot the location, it's a townhouse. And literally someone moved into it. This was a couple of years ago, I heard this. They moved into it. They opened up something in the floor doing their construction. And everything you can imagine coming up, flies, demons. They attacked everybody. The family left the house. They brought the church in. This house is boarded up, and they sealed it. They used a part of ritual to seal it. And you know what? You can't knock it down. You can't restore it. You can't do anything. You can't even go on the property, because they know what they have there. It is a demonic-based house. It's like a highway to hell. And we're not talking AC/DC either, and it's still there, and it's still in existence. I've been trying to see where it's located, but there are these little spots here that do get more active than before. Now, something of interest is, when you're talking about raising your vibration and frequency, okay, you're talking about a spectrum, and it's a sound spectrum and it's a light spectrum, and eventually the sound and light kind of merge into, different types of the same waves. When you talk about tape or shows, even this, it's changed from magnetic tape, where you can imprint on it, but you're giving these demons or these spirits the ability through this electronics now to really get energized and juiced up to get the power to do what they're doing. Another thing that's very important here, no one really talks about, I think it was one of the first ones, they talk about the Mandela effect, okay? The Mandela effect happened around 2010, if I'm correct. I forgot the name of the paranormal researcher that was the one that was looking. I thought he was dead, but he wasn't dead. did you? I think there's a direct connection between the evil and and cryptids that we've been seeing here, and interdimensional species, and all these colliders that have come online. The
Yep.
first one ever in the world was Firmlab, and it was abruptly shut off in like 2010 or 2012, right around the time the Mandela effect took place. What if these individuals played it with something that they shouldn't have and ripped our timeline with another timeline, and when they brought it back together, we have bits and pieces of that timeline. Okay, they're doing things. They want to make bigger colliders. They want to make bigger experiments. I mean, if you just look at what took place at CERN, someone posted a video where they were dressed in almost what would be satanic hoods. Looks like they did a blood sacrifice there. If you look at the symbolism they use for these things, it's just, who knows what are they trying to do?
And they've got that big statue of Kali the Destroyer out there.
There
too,
you go.
In their courtyard. So
I mean, and no offense, and I don't want to get anybody angry, but there's a lot of demonic things or statues or references to weird stuff in the Vatican.
Yeah.
And Washington.
So
and
again,
London.
Right. And it's, again, this goes back to intention. You can, the devil will deceive you because that's what he or she, whatever it does. And you will think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, just while it's ripping your soul out of your chest.
At the Vatican, it's what St. Peter's Square, that large obelisk that goes up.
Yeah.
Do you know which Roman emperor created that? I just found this out the other day.
Was it oh my god, who's there at the time of Jesus?
Think of the one who was probably one of the most off the rocker emperors. He lived a very short print. It was Caligula.
Oh,
Caligula?
That makes sense.
Yep.
Is that crazy? I mean, I saw that and it just struck me. I went, oh my gosh.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird connections here. And again, with anything, if you look at the yin yang symbol, with a lot of good, there's always a little bad. And with a lot of bad, there's always a little good.
Yes.
It goes back to your intention. And if your heart is pure, you could fight the good fight and you're going to be fine. It's those people that are on the fence. And we have a lot of them now.
So it's almost like a Stranger Things.
Yes.
But in real life.
Yeah. It's and it's isn't it very interesting? They bring Firmlab back on over in Chicago. They've done experiments, continued them. And what has taken place in Chicago area recently, Steve, you may know about it. All these sightings of these winged Mothman type creatures are coming in and out. And I contend that these are interdimensional beings who see that crack in time space from wherever they are. They're like, what's that hole? They go through, and that's why you're getting them. That's why you get Mothman. That's why you get, I personally believe Bigfoot as well as Dogman as species have the innate ability to travel interdimensionally. I didn't originally think that until I've had an experience and I studied physics. That's the only way it can be explained. And if you ask me, well, how do they do it? I'm going to ask you, how do you breathe? Explain to me how you just do it. It's an innate ability. And that's why, there's energy spikes near them. There's what looks like UFOs. They're not UFOs. They're changing from a physical being, flesh and blood, into a different type of energy to get into that space. Again,
I'll never forget when I was going to school, we had a gentleman came in and presented, and basically the parasympathetic nervous system we have no control over. This guy did, and they wired him up with heart monitors and pressure gauges, and he stood there looking at us, and he willed his heart to stop, and literally you saw it slow down, beat, flatline. And he stood, and they had asked in advance, everybody be very quiet and whatnot, there's not to break his concentration. For 10 minutes, he stood there and looked at us. We saw all the circulation leave his limbs. He had his arms out. They turned blue. His face turned blue. And he was flatlined for 10 minutes. And then at his will, he started his heart back up. And within no time at all, he was, perfectly fine. And he did what's called an alpha sleep. He slept 2 hours a night, and it was an alpha sleep. And he told us that like 1 alpha sleep hour is like 8 or 9 hours of regular sleep. So he's very well rested, very productive because he had all this extra time he wasn't sleeping. But he was able to lower his blood pressure some 30 points at will, was able to stop his heart, was even able to alter his EKG waves, all with power of mind over matter. Now, we say that we don't have that ability, and that's what medicine teaches us. And yet there's a guy sitting there, and there was no tricks, there was no gimmicks, but he did it. And it just goes to, the reason I bring that up is just there's so much that we haven't questioned that exists. It's just that so many people don't open their minds to the possibility that it exists. Mm-hmm. And I really do think that there's forces that are very present in our society today. And it is that battle of good versus evil. And so everyone who is a light worker, who has various skills along those lines, you're needed in this battle. We have had the spirits tell us here that they are, in other words, that battle of good versus evil is on their side as well. And that they're as dependent on us maintaining our integrity and honesty and spirituality of nature to be able to compensate and battle on that plane as we do depend on them here. So it's very much a symbiotic relationship between these two spheres. And that's something I would have never really thought of that directly in terms of relationship a while ago. I mean, I have to say the last couple years, even with all the stuff going on with COVID, I've learned so much.
Yeah, it's very odd. We only use a small percentage of our brains, and apparently this gentleman was using a lot higher percentage of his brain.
Yeah.
So just imagine, I think what we use no more than 3 to 5%, if I'm correct. So if you could use 10% of your brain, I think there's things that would blow your mind that you can do. I think maybe we do have the ability to change materially, physically, emotionally, mentally, travel, talk to each other without even moving our vocal cords.
My wife and I communicate very often telepathy. I said I can never pull anything off. I mean, she's sometimes thinking it before I have.
I've actually, my wife thinks I'm crazy because of what I do, but she's very, she lets me do what I do. But I've tried with our kids in the car to talk to them mentally, ask them questions. And I do tests like this because there is a connection to, and specifically I have daughters versus sons. And there is a difference between the female makeup and the male. Females are really in tune to what people call paranormal from the get-go. And when they get to that cycle time, that's when you get all that stuff flying out and cabinets opening up. They're tapping into something subconsciously they're not aware of or innately, and then we lose it after a while because, I got to get the new iPhone. So that's more important than tapping into your soul or whatever it is. Yeah. But that's what happens. And I think through meditation and I use binaural beats. You can get a free app on almost every platform. And there's alpha waves, there's theta waves.
Right.
I use it because my wife snores like a bear at night. So I'm always like, in dream sleep or something just to block that out.
You're in so much trouble tonight, Bryan.
She's in bed already. I'm
I
good.
was just joking. But, real quick, because I know we're running out of time here, and this is like fastest 2 hours ever. But I have personally been on more than one spirit rescue, let's say, with both of these gentlemen. And the amount of love and energy to help perfect strangers that need help. It was absolutely mind-blowing. I mean, Steve and I had one. Maybe you'd like to tell that, if you like. And Bryan and I have had several. And it's just people not knowing each other, using their gifts to connect to help one. And boy, if we took that on now, if we were trying to help the living as much as, we all help the dead, and let them help us and help guide us. Gosh, we wouldn't be having this right now, because evil would just leave this planet and go pick on somebody that didn't war and didn't, as long as we keep being cruel to each other, they're going to be here eating that fear. It's called loosh. They love loosh. It's like food. It's it's your fear. It's your energy. And look it up, chat. LOOSH, I believe. And it's not something that you want to provide. Don't be a buffet for the bad guys. Okay, I'm going to shut up. Steve, you want to tell a piece of that about your skeleton guy?
Just a little bit. It would take too long to tell the whole thing because it was so involved. But I kept having these. They weren't dreams. They were like visitations. And the little bit that I do sleep, somebody kept coming to me, and it was somebody that had a motorcycle crash and had died, and the body had never been found. It was underneath a tree, and the limbs were hanging so low you couldn't see unless you actually bent down and looked up under there. And first in the dream, I saw the motorcycle over the side of a hill, and it was almost completely covered in dirt. I could see like part of one handlebar in the gas tank. And I was thinking, that's a weird place to leave a motorcycle. And then like the next time I had the dream, I found the body. And the third time I had the dream, then it started talking to me. And it was saying, you got to help me. And each time then that I would go back and dream this, it was a little bit more deteriorated. I could see like the rib bones beneath the ripped clothing. I could see the skull with the flesh sloughing off of it and stuff. And I was getting really disturbed about it. And I got a hold of Sycso when we were actually looking on the map, because I could see physical features of the terrain off in the distance. And we were trying to find, I thought, I was supposed to find this motorcycle and find this poor guy's body so he can be at peace. But it turned out it was a whole other thing that Sycso got another person involved in. Sycso said, I need you to help me with something. And the first words out of her mouth was, forget about the motorcycle. Quit looking for the motorcycle. And you hadn't told her anything about it, had you, Sycso? It was just
nothing.
And she pulled that and stirred out of the ether. But it found out it was a guy that had passed some time ago, and he was afraid to go into the light because, number one, he didn't know if his mom was still alive or not, because in his own mind, he'd been a bad dude. He was a bad boy, motorcycle ruffian and whatnot. And he was afraid of what his mom would think about him. Mm-hmm. I mean, this big old guy, he'd been a big old guy at one time, but he was scared of this little bitty woman that was his mother,
Mm-hmm.
But she had gone on, and I think, wasn't it her that actually came and took his hand and took him through? This went on for months.
It did.
The resolution.
But it was people that didn't know, not in the same states, nothing. Everybody got together to help, and I just put my foot down. I said, "Call his mother to come and get him. I'm done with this guy."
But it was just like somehow he knew to appear to me so that I would appeal to you, and you would know who to go to. It was a chain reaction effect there.
Exactly.
Yep.
And that's how it works.
That with you, Sycso.
Yep. Yes, baby, we have. But, I got really cool friends that I could call. I could call any of these guys. Steve calls me at 3:00 in the morning, says, I think I know where a body's hidden. I'm like, okay, explain. But that's the way it is. And that's community. And all of us getting together to help them. And, if this is the party that we're having on this side, I can't wait to get over there with you guys, because we're going to really throw it down.
Right on.
Well, like I said, it is the fastest 2 hours. Good heavens. Just amazing. I appreciate you guys so much. And then you've also introduced us to Katie and Richard. And oh my gosh, Our group has really expanded, and we just feel so privileged to know such quality individuals. You've certainly you've certainly given us a lot of information, education, and I just feel very kindred spirits with all of you guys. And want to thank you for appearing tonight. We'll definitely do this again. I had a ball.
Yeah,
Oh,
me too.
absolutely.
It was
Always
great.
And for Bryan and Sycso, if you're going to be able to make it to the bash, Cisco's already done it, but Bryan, you'll get to meet the rest of the team for the first time because all
Awesome.
4 of us are going to be there. So
Yeah, we
Yeah.
actually have Janet coming in from the West Coast, so
Cool.
Oh, wow.
that'll be neat.
I'm trying to
Nice.
get the whole family there because I've always wanted to go to Gettysburg, and I don't care if they whine and bitch and moan. You know, go swimming at the hotel or wherever you want. I want to go to Gettysburg.
Let's do it. Let's
Yeah.
do it. Let's cross some of these souls. It's been long enough. Let's go in
Oh,
there
yeah.
and help some people.
Well,
And I hope you
can't-
can make it too, Steve.
can't
I
thank-
don't know about this year, but next year for sure. I plan to be living back to East
Well,
by
you
then.
let us know, Steve. We'll make arrangements, my friend. We'll can't thank you all enough for appearing tonight. And
Thank you.
I had a ball. I always enjoy spending some time with you guys. What do you think of the new format? It's
I
pretty
love it.
nice.
I like it. Looks good. I just switched to
Yeah.
StreamYard myself. It's a whole new world.
Yeah.
It's so easy.
I transitioned a couple of people over to StreamYard recently. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
What do you
And,
think,
uh,
Bri?
I think it's great. I think you're doing a good job too.
Look.
Yep, Cisco's one of them. And you know, there are people that it's like, what are you doing? You have a great show. Stop playing with the phone. Let's get going here.
absolutely.
You know, start with the free
Yep.
one, and then
Yep.
graduate. You know, when it gets, you know, you get 1,000 people, and you can get those what do you call it? The texts and
Yeah.
YouTube. You know, where they can send you money. Then go up to the next level and
Yeah.
get more
Yeah.
streams going at once. But
Yep.
yeah.
Well, thank you guys, all
Thank
3 of
you.
you. We really had a great time. We
Thanks
can't
for
wait to
having
do it
us on,
again.
Dave, Jim.
And-
Always a pleasure being with Cisco or Bryan.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
It's really great spending some time with you, and stay strong and well, my friends.
Yep, and thank you to all our viewers. We hope you enjoyed as much as we did, and we'll see you back here next week with Doorway to the Dead.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you for joining Dave and Jim on Doorway to the Dead. Catch us